In South Africa, we're used to seeing school pupils who excel in traditional academics or sport rewarded publicly. Now, new research suggests that awarding pupils with special blazers or badges actually creates barriers to participation and further achievement. This can affect those who don't necessarily do well in traditional school activities and subjects, but it can also limit the pursuits of those who do. Inclusive education researcher Shakira Akabor says schools should revisit the ways in which pupils are encouraged to achieve. Shakira, please, before I continue, I hope I didn't butcher your last name. Please give me the correct pronunciation, because I hate mispronouncing people's names.
It is Akabor, thank you.
Cheers. All right, Shakira, how do we then reward achievement at school, if at all? If you're saying things like special badges or blazers are the wrong thing to do, then what is the way to recognize achievement? Is it no recognition at all, some recognition, but different types of recognition? How do we navigate this?
Okay, so I think this is very interesting. Coming from a South African context where schools always recognize and have recognized traditionally where the school decides. So every school rewards uniquely, although there are some commonalities amongst the way we reward. I think that if we're going to go from that context into one where we're going to relook at the way we reward, then it must be an active engagement process. We have to engage with all stakeholders, including parents and learners themselves, and find out the ways in which learners find the rewards problematic. Because in my study, 66% of the learners were in fact award winners, and yet they had issues with the ways in which schools reward them. So that points to the fact that perhaps a little bit more engagement, a little bit more discussion is required, and finding out in a creative process. It's not simply a case of this works for us or this doesn't, and I think we'll have to embark on that and navigate as we go along what actually works.
Shakira, I've got a cousin whose daughter goes to a school that doesn't subscribe to the competitive schooling type of model, and it frustrates her because she's quite competitive. So the competition and the recognition works for some people. Are we not then just not preparing the students for life later on, where competition and recognition is a reality?
Okay, so on that point, I think that children will participate in sporting activities and other activities, cultural activities where there might be competition, and that is fine. But the question becomes, in South Africa's context of inequality, specifically in education, specifically where we've got very few learners coming out with university grade matrics, right, where they can proceed with post-school opportunities, we need to look at raising the standard for all. And in that context, we shouldn't be saying that learners should be competing for a quality education. So yes, they can learn competition or competitive skills in other aspects of their lives. What I'm saying is we should not be saying that education should be competed for.
Shakira, you said you spoke to nearly 150 students. 66% of them were high achievers who had been recognized or awarded some kind of recognition. For those who hadn't been awarded any kind of recognition, did you feel that these awards actually demotivated them?
Funnily enough, the group that said that they were demotivated were the ones that worked towards the awards and didn't receive them. So they were from the pool, the possible pool that could win awards, and they worked towards it, and they were outdone by somebody else, and they just thought, well, why put in any more effort? You know, it's not going to happen. And so they simply got demotivated, which is the total opposite of what we want for learners. We want all learners to achieve, and we want all learners to participate. And so the point is that we need to look at ways in which we're not only rewarding 10 to 12% of the student population.
Shakira, thank you so much for your time and for your research. It's quite illuminating. Shakira Akabor, a postdoctoral researcher at UNISA.